Hi, welcome to this tutorial on classes and objects. We're going to be studying this to help you understand how to use your machine project template. And this is one of the most convenient concepts that you will ever learn, because the reality is most programs or useful programs require complex operations and have tons of data to manage. To help us learn this, we'll be creating a practical application. We're going to create a gradebook. I know this can be created in Excel, but for this, we're going to pretend Excel does not exist, so we have to create our own application to do this. The goal of our application is to monitor students' progress, to help the teacher see the students' progress in learning. 3 key features to solve this. Number 1, we should manage the student's information, name, block, and ID number, and of course, the grades of the requirements. Number 2, the program should be able to identify the students at risk, those that might fail the course, and third, to give the teacher an overview of the class performance by determining the average. Now, let's try creating this application. We're used to declaring one class and placing our variables inside of main. So, probably to do this, we're going to declare name, ID number, and blocked. This is for the personal information. Next, we're going to save the scores. The scores would be int right, just like 7 out of 10, 5 out of 20, or something like that. Okay, so we have a score for the project, we have a score for the problem set, right? And they're actually, well, ideally there were 5 problem set, so we're going to copy paste, makes things easy. And we have 3 assessment. Assessment 1, assessment 2, and assessment 3. Okay, there we go, done. But the gradebook is not managing only one student. It's supposed to manage a lot of students. So we're going to do this for a bunch of students, and I'll have to add this one just to know that this one student, okay. Even if there's copy pasting, you can sense that there's something wrong with this, right? It's, oh no, like crazy. And I have to do this for what? 9 more? And I'm going to have this. No way! This can't be, right? I'm not going to have 45 of this for the 45 students among 3 classes. This is absurd. You're correct. This is not the approach. So, we're going to learn a better approach on how to do that. Specifically, these parts of the step will be different when we learn how to use classes. So, we have realized that we will end up with many variables for this kind of software. And that would make programming very difficult, right? You know that when there are so many variables, it's so difficult to trace your code, and it's also pretty difficult to write statements with it. But the good news is there's a better way, and yes, it has to do something with classes. Now, before we learn about classes, I want to play a little game with you. I'll be describing some information, and you tell me, what am I describing? Okay, it's better to just try it before to understand the game. For example, if I say month, day, and year, what do you think am I referring to? A date. Good. Let's try number 2. Name, price, code, stock, and description. What do you think am I referring to? A product or an item. How about title, author, genre, publication date? A book. What if name, class, level, guild, and stats? What am I describing? A player character. Very good. So what does this have to do with classes and objects? Real-world programs would manage more complex data. And rather, data is not isolated. They are grouped into something because they represent something more or something bigger. The reality is that data, when put together, are more meaningful because they represent something. And this representation of data is the motivation behind classes and objects. Classes are used to represent structures or like sets of data. But what does that mean for you as a programmer? Simple, really. This means that you can define your own data type. Now, you have been declaring classes ever since your first program, right? Because whenever you create a program, Java insists that you place them in a class. However, you have not been using it to its full potential. Now, when you know how to define your own data type, there are 4 things in your programming that would have to change. Number 1, declaring a variable. Number 2, you would now see creating an object as a necessity. Number 3, you would realize how easy it would be to put values. And number 4, reading of values would also be pretty different. Okay, enough talk. Let's get to coding for you to see the difference. Okay, so instead of doing this, which is, like, no way, this is wrong, right? Okay, let's start by creating a structure. So if we have a name, an ID number, and a block, and a set of scores, what information do this group of data represent? It's a student, right? Okay, so I'm going to create a student class because it represents a student. Okay, change number 1 is where you declare your variables. Before, you declare them in main, but when you're dealing with classes and objects, and when you're equipped with this programming concept, you no longer declare them just in methods like in main, but you can declare them right after the class declarations. I can do something like this, right? Notice Eclipse changed its color into blue. Now, is that just a fancy way of displaying it? No. This represents something very, very crucial. Variables declared under the class declaration are actually known as attributes. Now, what's the difference of the attributes and variables declared inside a method? You read about methods to understand them, but just remember for now that they are attributes when they're declared here, like right under the class declarations. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this and place them here. Okay, notice how it changed to blue? It's because Java recognizes that you're declaring attributes, not just regular variables. Okay. Step 1 clear. Step 2 is to create an object. Okay? Normally, you do not create objects in the same class. Unless your program has only one class, and of course your static main would be in the same class. But chances are, most programs are composed of many classes, and there's like one or a few set of classes that would be needing other classes. Okay, remember this. When you create a class, you created a new data type. So your new data type can hold information, and this data type will be used by another class. So in our program, gradebook is where we have our static main, and gradebook is the one who will use our class. Okay? So how do we declare student? If we declare an int, it's like this, right? And we said that classes are just custom data type. So can I use the same pattern? Data type and variable name? Sure you can. Student. Let's call it person1. You know that person1 is just our variable name. Okay? This we have created, but we know that when we declare x like this, it doesn't have a value yet. So to put a value, we do something like this. But we cannot do that for our student, because remember, our student contains how many information? 1, 2, 3, and then 9. It has 12 set of information. How are you going to put that information, right? Before you do that, you first need to create an object. Remember how you use scanner? Okay, you have to create the scanner object. The same principle applies here. You remember that s is equal to new scanner. I have never been able to explain what this is, right? But now you would understand what it is. Okay, so we use the same pattern. We're going to use new, but this time student, because that's the name of our class, and we do this. Okay, now we have created our object. Okay, wait. What's the difference between object and classes? Okay, no problem. Let's try to think of it like this.